He didn't hesitate. General Marcus Steele turned his back on her and walked away. The sound of helicopters thundered overhead. Soldiers shouted. The ground trembled beneath distant explosions. And behind him, Elena Vaughn stood still, blind, alone, in enemy territory. "Stay here," he said, his voice cold, controlled. At that moment, it felt like the right decision, because what Marcus believed was that she had betrayed him. But here's the shocking part. She didn't argue. She didn't cry. She didn't even call his name. She just stood there, listening, as his footsteps faded, as the last chance of safety disappeared into the chaos. And Marcus, he never looked back. Not once. Because to him, this was war. And in war, hesitation gets you killed. But that one decision, that one moment, would cost him everything. Because what he didn't know, what no one told him, was that Elena wasn't just a blind woman trapped in the Blackridge sector. She was the only one who could get him out alive. And now, he had just left her behind, in the most dangerous place on Earth. But wait, it gets worse. Because minutes later, when the enemy closed in, when the mines began to trigger, when the sky lit up with the warning of an incoming airstrike, Marcus realized something that hit him harder than any bullet ever could. He wasn't escaping. He was already trapped. And the only person who knew the way out couldn't see. General Marcus Steele was not a man who made mistakes. At least, that's what everyone believed. In the military, his name carried weight, precision, discipline, results. He was known for one thing above all else: control. Marcus didn't act on emotion. He didn't second-guess decisions. And he definitely didn't let personal attachments interfere with missions. That was his rule. That was how he survived. But Elena Vaughn, she was the one exception he never planned for. He met her years ago, long before Blackridge sector ever became a battlefield. Back then, life was quieter, slower. Elena wasn't blind then. She used to talk about colors, about sunsets, about the way light moved across a room like it had a mind of its own. Marcus didn't understand it at first. He wasn't built for softness. But she had a way of making things feel simple, real, and somehow important. But everything changed the night she lost her sight. It was sudden, violent, a situation Marcus still blamed himself for, even though he never said it out loud. After that, something shifted. Not just in her, but in him. Elena adapted. That was the strange part. She didn't break. She didn't fall apart. Instead, she changed. She started listening more, paying attention to things most people ignored. Footsteps, wind patterns, echoes, the smallest sounds. Marcus noticed it, but he never truly understood it. To him, blindness meant limitation, weakness, and in his world, weakness was dangerous. Phil. He stayed. He married her. And for a while, it worked. They built something that felt stable, even if it wasn't perfect. But there was always something unspoken between them. A distance. Marcus kept parts of himself locked away. The mission, the secrets, the weight of command. Elena never forced it out of him. She just listened. Sometimes, she would tilt her head slightly, as if she could hear something deeper than words. That always unsettled him, because it felt like she knew more than she should. But he ignored it, just like he ignored a lot of things, because ignoring was easier, safer. And then came Blackridge sector. A hostile zone. Unpredictable. Deadly. The kind of place where even the most experienced soldiers hesitated. Marcus didn't hesitate. He was assigned command of a critical operation. High stakes, limited time, and zero room for error. But there was one complication. Elena. She wasn't supposed to be there. She wasn't part of the mission. But circumstances, unclear, unplanned, forced her into the situation. And Marcus didn't like it. Not one bit. From the moment they entered Blackridge, something felt off. Too quiet. Too still. Even the soldiers noticed it. But no one said anything. Because Marcus was leading. And Marcus didn't believe in fear. At least, not openly. Elena, however, she noticed immediately. "This place," she said softly. Marcus glanced at her. "What about it?" She paused, listening. "There's no rhythm." He frowned. "What does that even mean?" She didn't answer right away. And that silence, it lingered. Longer than it should have. Then she said, "It's like everything is waiting." Marcus brushed it off. Because that's what he did. He dealt with facts. Not feelings. Not instincts. And definitely not something he couldn't see. But that was his mistake. Because what Elena was sensing was something he couldn't. Something no one else could. And it was already too late. The mission began to unravel faster than expected. Communication started failing. Signals dropped. Movement became restricted. Then came the first sign something was seriously wrong. A missing patrol unit. Gone without a trace. No distress call. No warning. Just silence. Marcus tightened security. Increased surveillance. Adjusted strategy. Everything by the book. Everything controlled. But the more he tried to contain the situation, the more it slipped through his fingers. And then came the moment that changed everything. A transmission. Short. Distorted. But clear enough. Internal breach. Marcus froze. Internal. That meant one thing. Betrayal. And suddenly, all his instincts turned inward. Suspicion spread fast. Too fast. But one detail stood out. One inconsistency. One person who didn't fit into the pattern. Elena. She had been moving differently. Pausing. Listening. Sometimes walking ahead before instructions were given. At first, it seemed harmless. But now it looked like something else. Something calculated. And Marcus, a man who trusted logic over emotion, started connecting the wrong dots. "She knows something," one of his men whispered. Marcus didn't respond. But the thought, it stuck. Because deep down, it made sense. Or at least, it felt like it did. And that was enough. That was all it took. Because in war, you don't wait for certainty. You act. And Marcus Steele, he acted. But he didn't know that this decision, this single moment of doubt, would destroy everything he thought he understood. And lead him straight into a trap. He couldn't escape alone. But everything was about to change. All right, we move deeper now. This is where tension tightens and curiosity spikes. Simple. Emotional. Controlled pacing. Microhooks embedded. The first explosion came without warning. A sharp crack beneath the ground. Then fire. One of the soldiers screamed as the mine detonated under his feet. Everything froze. Then chaos. "Move back! Move back!" Marcus shouted. But it was already too late. The ground beneath Blackridge sector wasn't just dangerous. It was alive with traps. And suddenly, every step mattered. Every sound mattered. Every second mattered. But here's the problem. They didn't know where the mines were. And that was when Marcus noticed something strange. Elena wasn't panicking. She stood still. Head slightly tilted. Listening. Again. That same unsettling stillness. As if she was hearing something no one else could. "Don't move," she said quietly. Marcus turned sharply. "What?" "Don't move," she repeated. "The ground ahead, it's wrong." One of the soldiers scoffed. "Sir, we can't just stand here." "Silence," Marcus snapped. But even as he said it, doubt crept in. Because this didn't make sense. She couldn't see. She wasn't trained. And yet, she was speaking like she knew something. Something precise. Something dangerous. But wait. It gets worse. Because seconds later, Another soldier took one careless step forward, and the ground exploded again. This time, no scream. Just silence. Heavy. Final. Marcus felt it in his chest. That cold realization. This wasn't random. This was controlled. Calculated. And somehow, Elena knew. But she didn't explain. She just whispered, "Listen." Marcus clenched his jaw. "I don't have time for this." "You don't have time not to," she replied. That stopped him. Not the words, but the way she said it. Certain. And that was the problem. Because certainty, without proof, looked a lot like deception. "What aren't you telling me?" Marcus asked. Elena didn't answer immediately. And that silence, it stretched. Again. Too long. "I'm trying to keep you alive," she finally said. But that was her mistake. Because to Marcus, that didn't sound like honesty. It sounded like control. And control was his domain, not hers. "Everyone hold position," Marcus ordered. The team froze. Tension thick in the air. But inside Marcus's mind, something was shifting. Pieces weren't fitting anymore. Her behavior, her timing, her awareness. It didn't add up. And when things don't add up, Marcus eliminates variables. That's how he survives. That's how he wins. But this time, he was about to make the wrong call. Because moments later, a second transmission came through. Faint. Broken. "They know," inside she. Then static. Marcus's eyes hardened. "She," he repeated slowly. The soldier beside him swallowed. "Sir, what if?" "I know what it sounds like," Marcus cut in. But did he? Or was he already convinced? Because everything now pointed in one direction. Elena. The only outsider. The only unknown. The only variable he couldn't control. And Marcus Steele? He doesn't tolerate unknowns. Not in war. Not when lives are on the line. "Elena," he said, his voice colder now. "Step forward." She didn't move. Not immediately. But she didn't resist either. She just walked forward slowly. Carefully. Listening as she moved. That alone irritated him. Because even now, she wasn't following his rhythm. She was following something else. "What do you know about this terrain?" he asked. "Enough," she said. "Enough for what?" "To survive." That answer, it hit something in him. Not fear. Not yet. But something close. Because it wasn't vague. It wasn't hesitant. It was direct. Too direct. "You've been here before," Marcus said. Not a question. A statement. Elena paused. And that pause confirmed everything in his mind. This is the mistake, Marcus thought. "You didn't tell me," he continued. "I didn't get the chance," she replied. But to Marcus, that sounded like an excuse. And excuses get people killed. "Sir," one of the soldiers whispered nervously, "we're exposed out here." Time was running. The enemy could be closing in. The airstrike warning hadn't even come yet. But Marcus felt it coming. Everything was tightening. Everything was collapsing. And he needed control. "This isn't a discussion anymore," Marcus said. His voice turned final. Decisive. Dangerous. "Elena Vaughn, you're compromised." Silence. Heavy. Crushing. Even the soldiers shifted uneasily. Because deep down, something about this felt wrong. But no one spoke. Because Marcus Steele had made his decision. And when Marcus decides, there's no going back. "You will remain here," he said. Elena's head tilted slightly. Not in confusion. Not in fear. But in something else. Understanding. "You're making a mistake," she said softly. But he didn't listen. Because in his mind, he already had the truth. Or at least, what he believed was the truth. And belief, in war, is often more dangerous than facts. "We move," Marcus ordered. And just like that, he turned his back on her. Again. This time for real. But as he walked away, something inside him shifted. Just slightly. A feeling. Small. Uncomfortable. Uncertain. But he ignored it. Because that's what he does. He ignores doubt. Until it's too late. And that was the moment. Everything started falling apart. The silence didn't last long. At first, it felt like progress. Marcus and his team moved carefully. Step by step. Measured. Controlled. No mistakes. No hesitation. Just forward motion. The way it should be. The way Marcus trusted. But something was off. Again. The air felt heavier. Thicker. Like the environment itself was watching them. Waiting. And then, the sounds started. Faint. Almost unnoticeable. A soft metallic click beneath one soldier's boot. Marcus froze. "Don't move," he said instantly. Too late. The explosion was smaller this time. But precise. Calculated. The soldier dropped. Alive. But unable to move. And now, they were stuck again. But wait. This is where it changes. Because for the first time, Marcus hesitated. Not outwardly. Not visibly. But internally. Because something didn't make sense. They were following standard protocol. Spacing. Movement. Awareness. And still, the mines kept triggering. That wasn't random. That wasn't luck. That was design. And suddenly, a thought hit him. Sharp. Unwelcome. What if she was right? He pushed it away immediately. Because accepting that meant one thing. He made a mistake. And Marcus Steele doesn't make mistakes. But the evidence. It kept building. Another sound. This time, not from the ground. From the distance. Footsteps. Multiple. Fast. "Enemy patrol," a soldier whispered. Marcus's expression hardened. Positions. Weapons raised. Breath held. Everything tightened. But then, something strange happened. The footsteps stopped. Abruptly. As if whoever was coming changed direction. Avoided them. Marcus frowned. That didn't make sense. They were exposed. Vulnerable. Easy targets. So why weren't they attacked? And that was when it hit him. They weren't being hunted randomly. They were being guided. Moved. Pushed. Like pieces on a board. Straight into something. Something worse. "This doesn't feel right," one soldier muttered. Marcus didn't respond. Because now, he felt it too. That creeping realization. That quiet panic he refused to show. Because the pattern was becoming clear. Too clear. And it pointed to one terrifying truth. They were walking deeper into danger. Not out of it. And the only person who seemed to understand this was the one he left behind. Elena. But he still didn't turn back. Not yet. Because pride is a powerful thing. And Marcus had built his entire life on being right. But then came the moment that broke everything. A distant rumble. Low at first. Then louder. The sky. Marcus looked up. And his heart dropped. "Airstrike warning." "Time," he demanded. "Less than 10 minutes," a soldier shouted. 10 minutes. That was all they had. 10 minutes before the entire area was wiped clean. No survivors. No second chances. And suddenly, everything became real. Too real. Because now, this wasn't just about strategy. This was survival. Raw. Immediate. Unforgiving. "We need an exit route now," someone yelled. Marcus scanned the terrain. But nothing made sense anymore. Every direction looked the same. Every path felt wrong. And that was when, for the first time, he admitted it. Silently. Reluctantly. Dangerously. "I don't know the way out." And that thought, it hit harder than anything else. Because control was gone. Completely. But that wasn't even the worst part. Because as the seconds ticked down, as the airstrike drew closer, as the pressure closed in, Marcus realized something else. Something colder. Something final. The only person who might know the safe path. The only one who could read the terrain without seeing it. The only one who understood this place. Was standing alone. Behind him. In enemy territory. Exactly where he left her. And now, getting back to her might be impossible. But that wasn't even the worst part. We're entering the most intense phase now. This is where pressure spikes, emotions crack, and truth starts bleeding through. Staying simple. Cinematic. Addictive. Turn back. The words came out before Marcus could stop them. Sharp. Urgent. Different. His team froze. One soldier blinked. Sir, back. That's deeper into. I know where it leads, Marcus cut in. But that wasn't true. Not anymore. And that was the problem. Because for the first time in a long time, Marcus Steele was guessing. And guessing in Blackridge sector gets you killed. But wait. This is where everything changed. Because Marcus wasn't choosing between right and wrong anymore. He was choosing between two dangers. Move forward and walk straight into whatever trap was waiting ahead. Or go back into a minefield to find the woman he abandoned. This is the mistake, a voice whispered in his mind. But which one? That was the question. The airstrike timer was closing fast. 7 minutes. The ground felt tighter. Every second louder. Every breath heavier. Marcus clenched his jaw. We go back, he said. Final. No hesitation this time. Because deep down, he already knew. Even if he refused to admit it out loud. She was the only variable he hadn't understood. And now, she was the only chance left. Move carefully, he ordered. No sudden steps. Watch the ground. But even as he said it, he knew something else. Watching wouldn't save them. Because the danger here wasn't visible. Step by step, they retraced their path. The same ground. The same silence. The same invisible threat. But now, something felt different. Not safer. No. Worse. Because now they knew. They weren't in control. And that changes everything. A soldier exhaled slowly. Sir, what if she's not there anymore? Marcus didn't answer. Because that thought, he had already pushed it aside. He couldn't afford it. Not now. Not with 6 minutes left. Then, a sound. Soft. Familiar. Marcus froze. There, he whispered. What? A soldier asked. Listen. They held still. And then they heard it. Footsteps. Light. Measured. Not running. Not panicked. Moving with intention. And then, a voice. Stop. Elena. She stepped into the open space ahead of them. Calm. Unshaken. Exactly where he left her. But that wasn't the shocking part. The shocking part was, she had moved. Through the same minefield. Alone. Without sight. And she was untouched. No injury. No mistake. Nothing. How? One soldier whispered. Marcus didn't speak. Because this shattered everything he thought he knew. You came back, Elena said quietly. Not surprised. Not emotional. Just certain. Marcus took a step forward. Careful. Controlled. You moved, he said. You shouldn't be alive. She tilted her head slightly. I told you, she said. I can survive here. But this time, he heard it differently. Not as defiance. Not as mystery. But as truth. And that realization, it hit him hard. We don't have time, Marcus said. Airstrike in 5 minutes, she finished. That stopped him. How do you know that? Elena didn't answer immediately. She listened. Again. Always listening. Then she said, the ground is changing. Marcus frowned. What does that mean? They're shifting positions, she said. The patrols, the drones, the patterns. She turned slightly, facing a direction that looked identical to every other direction. This way, she said. One soldier hesitated. Sir, we're trusting her now. Marcus looked at Elena. Really looked this time. And for the first time, he saw what he had missed. Not weakness, not confusion, but control. A different kind, a deeper kind. And suddenly, everything made sense. But it also made one thing painfully clear. He had been wrong. Completely. And now, he had to decide. Again. Move, Marcus said. But this time, he wasn't leading. He was following. And that shift, it changed everything. Because every step now was guided by someone who couldn't see, yet understood more than all of them combined. Step where I step, Elena said. Exactly. No hesitation. No deviation. Just trust. But trust was something Marcus had already broken. And now, he had to rebuild it. In 5 minutes. Or die trying. Because what happened next, no one was prepared for. Left. Elena's voice cut through the tension. Sharp. Precise. Marcus stepped left. Exactly where she placed her foot. Nothing happened. No explosion. No sound. Just silence. Stop. They stopped. Wait. Seconds passed. Long. Heavy. Then a faint click echoed somewhere ahead. Not under them. Not near them. But close enough. Trap, Elena whispered. Marcus's chest tightened. Because now, he understood. She wasn't guessing. She was reading the environment. The pressure. The echoes. The way sound moved across the ground. You can hear them, he said quietly. Not just here, she replied. I feel them. That sent a chill through him. Because this wasn't normal. This wasn't training. This was something else. Something deeper. Something he never took the time to understand. And now, it was the only reason he was still alive. But wait, this is where everything breaks. Because suddenly, gunfire erupted. From behind. Enemy contact, a soldier shouted. Bullets tore through the air. Fast. Relentless. They found us, someone yelled. Marcus turned instantly. Return fire. But even as they engaged, everything became clear. This wasn't random. They were being pushed, forced forward, into the minefield, into chaos, into death. This is the mistake, Marcus realized. They're hurting us. Elena, he said urgently. We need speed. You need precision, she corrected. Another explosion went off behind them. A soldier screamed. Then silence. Gone. Marcus's jaw tightened. Move, he shouted. No, Elena said firmly. That stopped him. Again. You rush, she said. You die. Gunfire intensified. Closer now. Louder. The airstrike rumble echoed faintly in the distance. Time was collapsing. Everything was collapsing. And Marcus, the man who always controlled everything, had nothing left to control. Except one choice. Trust her. Or lose everything. Again. Tell me where, he said. No ego. No resistance. Just truth. And that moment, that shift, was everything. 3 steps forward, Elena said. Then stop. He moved. 1, 2, 3. Stop. They froze. Bullets flew past them. Close. Too close. Right, she said. They moved. Another click. Behind them. Explosion. The path they almost took. Gone. That was your instinct, Elena said softly. And it would have killed you. Marcus swallowed. Because she was right. Again. And that truth. It hurt. Not physically. But deeper. Because it forced him to face something he had avoided for years. He didn't understand everything. He wasn't always right. And the person he doubted the most was the one saving him now. But then, everything stopped. Suddenly. No gunfire. No movement. Just silence. Heavy. Unnatural. Marcus frowned. What is it? Elena didn't answer. She just listened. Longer this time. Long enough to make everyone uncomfortable. And then she said something that changed everything. They're not trying to kill us anymore. Marcus's eyes narrowed. What do you mean? They're waiting. For what? Elena turned her head slightly, as if focusing on something far away. Impact. And then Marcus understood. Airstrike. They weren't chasing anymore. They didn't need to, because in less than a minute, everything here would be gone, including them. We're out of time, Marcus said. No, Elena replied. We're exactly where we need to be. That didn't make sense. Not yet. But it would. Because seconds later, she stepped forward. Confident. Certain. Final. Follow me, she said. And Marcus, for the first time, didn't question it. Didn't doubt it. Didn't hesitate. Because now he knew. The shocking truth. The unexpected reality. The one thing he should have understood from the beginning. She was never the liability. She was the way out. And in that moment, everything changed forever. We finish strong now. This is where everything lands. Emotion, truth, reflection, and the final twist. Clean. Powerful. Memorable.
Down. Elena's voice was calm. Too calm for what was happening. Marcus didn't question it. He dropped instantly. The others followed. And then, the world exploded. The airstrike hit. A deafening roar tore through Blackridge sector. The ground shook violently. Fire ripped across the surface. Explosions chained one after another. Precise. Devastating. Unforgiving. Marcus pressed his body into the earth. Heart pounding. Ears ringing. Everything blurred into noise and heat and force. But through all of it, Elena didn't move. She stayed low. Still. Listening. As if she had expected this exact moment. Seconds passed. Or maybe minutes. It was hard to tell. Because time inside chaos doesn't behave normally. Then, silence. Slowly. Carefully. Marcus lifted his head. Smoke filled the air. Thick. Burning. The landscape had changed. Completely. What used to be a deadly minefield was now scorched ground. Cleared. Flattened. Safe. And that's when it hit him. Not like a shock. Not like fear. But like something deeper. Something undeniable. She knew. She knew, Marcus whispered. Elena stood up slowly. Dust clinging to her clothes. Face calm. Unshaken. You used the airstrike, Marcus said. Not a question. A realization. She turned slightly toward him. Yes. That single word. It carried everything. You let us here on purpose, he continued. Yes. Marcus took a step closer. But how, he asked. How could you possibly know the timing, the pattern, the safe zone? Elena paused. And for the first time, there was something different in her silence. Not hesitation. Not fear. But wait. Truth. You never asked, she said quietly. Marcus frowned. What does that mean? She faced him fully now. Even without sight. It felt like she was looking directly at him. Before I lost my vision, she began, I worked with terrain mapping units. Marcus's expression shifted. You never told me that. I tried, she replied softly. But you were always too busy leading to listen. That landed hard. Because it was true. And deep down, he knew it. I studied places like this, she continued. War zones. Movement patterns. Hidden systems. She stepped forward slightly. The mines here aren't random, she said. They're placed based on sound, vibration, and movement habits. Marcus listened. Really listened this time. They react differently depending on pressure, timing, rhythm, she added. And when I lost my sight, she paused. Then said, I started hearing what others ignore. The wind moved lightly across the ruined ground. Soft. Almost peaceful now. I could feel where it was safe, she said. Not perfectly, but enough. Marcus exhaled slowly, because now, everything made sense. Her pauses, her movements, her certainty. It was never luck. It was understanding. A different kind of vision. You thought I betrayed you, she said. Not accusing. Just stating. Marcus looked down briefly. Then back at her. Yes. No excuse. No defense. Just truth. And you left me, she continued. Again. No anger. Just fact. Marcus swallowed. I did. Silence followed. But this time, it wasn't heavy. It wasn't tense. It was honest. And that was new, because for the first time, there were no assumptions between them. No hidden meanings. No control. Just truth. Raw and simple. I heard the transmission too, Elena said. Marcus looked up. What? The one that mentioned she continued. It wasn't about me. Marcus frowned. Then who? Elena tilted her head slightly, listening again. Even now. Always. One of your men, she said. Marcus's chest tightened. What are you saying? I'm saying, Elena replied calmly. You were looking in the wrong direction. And that was the final piece. The final break. Because suddenly, everything snapped into place. The missing patrol. The internal breach. The strange movements. The enemy knowing their positions. It wasn't Elena. It was someone else. Someone inside his unit. And Marcus, the man who prided himself on control, had misjudged the one person who was actually saving him. This was the mistake, he said quietly. Not to her. To himself. Yes, Elena replied. But there was no cruelty in it. Just truth. Marcus looked around. At the aftermath. At the destroyed terrain. At the men who survived. And the ones who didn't. And for the first time in a long time, he didn't feel in control. He felt human. Flawed. Wrong. And strangely, relieved. Because truth, even painful truth, has a way of clearing things. Like the airstrike had cleared the ground. You could have left, Marcus said. Elena tilted her head slightly. Left you? Yes. You abandoned me, he said. You had every reason. Elena was quiet for a moment. Then she said, I knew you would come back. Marcus frowned. How? And that's when the final twist revealed itself. The one thing he never expected. The one truth that changed everything again. Because I know you, she said. Simple. Calm. Certain. Marcus stared at her. You didn't panic, he said slowly. You didn't argue. You didn't try to stop me. Elena smiled faintly. I didn't need to. That hit deeper than anything else. You knew I was wrong, he said. Yes. You knew I would realize it? Yes. Marcus shook his head slightly. How? And then, she said the one thing that stayed with him forever. Because you always listen. She paused. Then added, eventually, silence. Soft. Different now. Not heavy. Not painful. Just real. Marcus let out a slow breath. Because she was right. Again. And that truth. It didn't break him. It changed him. We need to move, a soldier said carefully. Rescue team should be approaching. Marcus nodded. But his attention remained on Elena. Because for the first time, he wasn't looking at her as someone to protect, or someone to question, or someone to control. He was looking at her as something else entirely. An equal. Maybe even more. He stepped closer. Carefully. Not out of command, but out of respect. I was wrong, he said. And this time, it wasn't just words. It was everything behind them. Elena nodded slightly. I know. No anger. No punishment. Just acceptance. And somehow, that felt heavier than anything else. Because forgiveness isn't always loud. Sometimes, it's quiet. And that quiet stays with you longer. They began to move again. But this time, not as commander and liability. Not as leader and follower. But as two people who finally understood each other. And that changed everything. Sometimes, the person you doubt the most is the one who sees what you can't. Sometimes, the mistake you make in seconds takes everything to understand. And sometimes, the way out was never about sight. It was about trust. So tell me, if you were Marcus, Would you have made the same decision?